What is going on, Whisper Nation? We're back at it. Listen, it's Monday, and 1/7 of our life lands on a Monday. And so what do? We mock them right here on the Fantasy Whispers.
Right here.
You didn't like that. You didn't like that hook at all, no? Not a good Monday morning.
Like it. It just didn't hit my expectations. Not good or bad, Johnny. I you hit me. Good surprise.
Good surprise. Well, we're doing a 12 team. I failed to also mention that it's a 12 team standard mock draft. So that was once again second intro botched by moi since Big Travis not here.
Botch, man, is it a real Monday?
Yeah, apparently I have the case of the Monday. So
if there's an intro made and it's not botched, is it even an intro at all?
That's a riddle of the day, probably. Yeah.
But we're doing a Toltem draft?
Yeah, so we're doing a Toltem draft, kicking it back to the old school. Listen, Big Travie isn't here again today. He's still on vacation. So I figured what better time to do a standard draft than now, because I was doing a little research during some office hours last week for Toltem, because we found out our draft spots kind of. And so I was trying to narrow it down, and Big Travie got annoyed at me. He said, this is work time. That's personal fantasy stuff. So I'm going to get back at him. So he's not here. So now we could do some standard league mocking.
And Whisper Nation, if you don't know what we're talking about, we say Toltem. That is our league of record, TOLTM. The only league that matters is our name for our league of record. And we take it very seriously. It's a 12-person league. We're going into year 11?
Yeah.
This is year 11, or is this year 10? No, this
year
is year
11.
This is year 11.
This is year 11.
Right. And we're making the switch from NFL to sleeper, fully integrating, cross-connected, all that good stuff. It's a 1 quarterback, 6 points per touchdown, 2 wide receivers in total. But are we doing 3 wide receivers here, Johnny?
No, we're just doing two wide receivers and a flex. Everything's the same.
Toltem. So 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, tight end, flex, no kickers in defense, just for the mocking purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Quarterback, 6-point passing touchdowns, no PPR, all that good stuff. Yeah. I love our homegrown league here.
I do. I also want to give a big shout out real quick before we get this started. If you want to mock draft with us right now, there's a couple spots left open. We're about to start this. There are 4 spots. We tweeted out the link. I will go ahead and I'll send it out or try to find it and send it out again right now. In this, but just follow us at TF Whispers. Just crossed 1,000 subscriber or followers on Twitter. Austin, super excited about that. But I want to say shout out to everyone in the chat right now. Rob Shorter, Whisper Nation Strong, always. Cat's Pajamas, 12 team standard leagues are my jam. Well, we got you, man. We got you. How can we draft with you guys? Please respond. Follow us on Twitter. We sent out the link to the sleeper room right there. Oh, yeah, made it. Perfect. Got it.
Fred Beasy in the house now.
Jaws Whedon, who asked for a standard draft, Joe. Listen, we take it back to our roots. Every once in a while, we have to take it back old school, remember where we came from, and that's what we're doing here.
That's a good question. I want to know, Johnny, what's other folks' favorite default draft? Maybe not the one you think is like the best, most conducive fantasy experience, but what do you just personally, what's your comfort food? What's your comfort food in terms of league settings? Do you like a 10-team, maybe like an 8-teamer? Maybe you like it easy and just kind of exciting, where you get an 8-teamer, an 8-team, 10-team league, or what am I saying?
Maybe you're like the league, the show, The League, and it's a 6-teamer.
Oh my goodness, right?
They had like super stacked.
Maybe you like to do it weird. Maybe you go 16-teamer. You like it real thin. Hey,
that's 16-teamer. Speaking of which, 16-teamer will be our listener league. That's our listener league number team. Team 16-teamer. So information about that will be coming up shortly. So you'll know how to enter that and get in, or try to get a spot to get in. Should be a lot of fun. But Austin, We got 3 spots left. What do you say we get this going?
Let's do it, man. I'm excited.
All right. You're at the 101 spot. All right. Let's begin draft sittings here. Any reason in particular you took the 101?
I kind of like the turn. I like the pace that it lets me get it going with. I really do like the turns. I like the turns where like the middle. From our broadcasting perspective, Johnny, it helps to go at this angle just so we can keep the conversation flowing while making picks and still being able to have presence of mind when I'm on the clock. But I do kind of like the turn. I like being able to see who fell to me and get that value. And then I also like reaching for the guy I really want. And I don't feel bad reaching when I've got like 24 picks before I'm coming back. Because it's like, if you like this guy, he's not going to be back. He's not going to be there on the backside. So make your choice.
Well, and let's just be honest, right? You secretly deep down, you just want the whole crowd behind you once you get that guy to just scream, "Reach for your guy." And then you just get super hyped. And then you're like into your draft. You're like, yeah, I might have reached for him, but guess what? He's a dynamite player. He's a diamond in the rough, and I'm not mad.
That's like the best sound at any draft is when you get that whole room like, oh, I wanted him. Oh, that was my guy. Just like whatever.
Even
advertising about their rosters.
Exactly. Well, and it's even better when like that player ends up being like a complete breakout player too. So it's like he ends up actually performing, and it was just like, yeah, everyone knew it, and I got that guy, and I know everyone knows I got that guy.
And on the flip side, when you make a pick that you're so stoked about, and you get like little like Conor McGregor walk going up to the board, and you're like, put the guy on the board, and then everyone's just like,
cool.
You kind of feel that they're like, you don't get the why, but you get the kind of like, oh, thank goodness he didn't take the guy I wanted, and you're like,
right.
Why didn't you want this guy? He's going to be a super boss. I swear Devontae Parker is going to be good this year. I swear. Yeah. That happens all the time.
That is a pretty great feeling.
Yaz here says 12-team PPR dinos. SF or IDP added for fun too. Have you played an IDP, Johnny? I know you were pushing to get us going in Tolton there for a little while. What do you think about IDP?
No, I did not ever want IDP. Well, I will say that for a split millisecond, I might have wanted an IDP, but then I played it, and then I didn't like it. I just think that it doesn't. I mean, there are definitely depths to it. Like you start like a lineman or a D lineman, a middle linebacker, corners, things like that. So it makes it a little bit more challenging, but it's just so different when you're in fantasy football and there are a lot of players on defense that kind of equal each other out. So it doesn't really feel like you're adding a whole lot of extra skill. I shouldn't say skill level there, but I just feel like you're just adding a spot to add a spot at that point. Like
it's just like extra variables for extra variables' sake.
Right, exactly. And then on top of that, you have the fact that if that guy goes, like, there's nothing more frustrating than when you're playing against a guy and they have like some, like not super talented like linebacker or whatever, and he just randomly gets a pick six that week, and it's just like, and so like that's a huge advantage when you're normally defensive players, like they're not like a huge, they don't bring you a lot of points, and right. So it's just, I don't know. I just don't like it. It's not for me. It's not my cup of tea. But I know that a lot of people do like IDPs. I am more into the Superflex stuff, though. I do like that. I think that is going to be talking about like the evolution of fantasy football and like where it started and then where it's like evolving to.
I think that's a good point, right? Because it's like you say the quarterback is such a cheat code, but then there's so many of them available on the waiver wire for the most part. And if you do make two quarterbacks available on each person's roster, it elevates the strategy for quarterback play in a way that I don't know why it's a bad thing for fantasy football either, especially in NFL football, just general land. It's the most important position. It's the position that's traditionally paid the highest on the team, has the most impact on the squad, right, wrong, or indifferent. That's just the case. And so to have a fantasy football framework that I guess, mirrors that priority a bit. I'm always a little hesitant to try to build fantasy football to mirror the NFL. I think that's a disservice done to the league. I think fantasy football it needs to be looked at as its own activity and something that just kind of works in conjunction with the NFL. And it's like two ingredients that are coming together. It's not just more of the same ingredient.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep.
But Johnny, I wanted to ask you here. So,
Josh was
double the homework for the draft, but not that much more through the season.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So we're here through the first round, and there's some interesting takeaways that I'm picking up in this 12-teamer, Johnny. One, you got Jacob Bley, number one fan, taking Nick Chubb taking Jonathan Taylor right after Nick Chubb. And Nick Chubb and Jonathan Taylor have been hot topics for the last month or so of mock drafts. And we've said we believe Jonathan Taylor's rightful position is right after Nick Chubb. The excitement is there for Jonathan Taylor, but there's really no metric you can suggest or point to that's going to demonstrate him being the superior choice over Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb has more experience. He's done it more often. He's in just as good of a situation, if not a better situation, than Jonathan Taylor. And I think if you're taking Jonathan Taylor ahead of Nick Chubb, you're just doing it for the mystery box factor. Maybe he'll be the best running back for this decade. And it's like, yeah, maybe, but probably not. So I think Nick Chubb being taken right before Jonathan Taylor is still the right call, and we've seen that now for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Do you still think that's the right position for the incoming second-year back, Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, I think that's definitely right around where you should expect him to come off the board, and realistically he should, because he does still have that upside, right, of becoming that number one overall running back, or at least top three, like we saw down the stretch. There are added factors, of course, but the ceiling is definitely there because you've seen it. What I found, or what I thought was really interesting, Austin, in the first round, that we haven't seen yet to this point. Now, this is a standard draft, so that could change a little bit of the reality and the perspective on it, but I still think it's significant because, and that's Cam Akers in the first round.
You're right.
Cam Akers has been at 109. Very interesting spot there. I think that when you're looking at it, the upside is definitely there to be that dark horse RB1. We talked about it on a couple of episodes ago on our YouTube channel. And I definitely think that there's that upside for sure. But now it's starting to get interesting because before you're paying a second rounder for the speculation of saying, yeah, I think he could be that number one or get into that top 12. But now you're like actually having to pay that like top 8 price if he does end up going there. Do you think that's where he'll end up going in your opinion? Or do you think that he'll end up falling back to kind of where, are you willing to risk, taking Cam Akers in the first on basically hype? I mean, I shouldn't say basically hype, but
I like him. But for me, the first round pick needs to eliminate as many question marks as possible while still, of course, aiming for that high ceiling and high floor. There's upside dart throws available throughout the draft. Obviously, more of a risk the further you get down, the lower the floor that dart throw will have as you get into the later rounds. But in the first round here, I'm looking to get a running back, or, I'm looking to get a wide receiver if all of the top-notch running backs are gone. But I don't have any problem doing that. It's kind of fun, actually, if the wide receiver is what ends up becoming available. But I think generally speaking, you're going to be looking for a running back. You're going to be looking for a bell cow on a good team. And for me, I'm looking for a bell cow on a good team that has a solid situation behind them. If there's one insurance policy I'm picking up for any player on my entire squad, it's my first round pick. Last year, taking Saquon Barkley early on, I love the upside he brings to the table, but that Giants offensive line is not very good. The backup running back behind Saquon Barkley at the time, it was just with a G. It was Devontae Freeman came in and filled in. Mm-hmm. But who was the backup running back here? And I can't even remember his name. Starts with a G. New York.
Devontae Freeman, then Wayne Gallman.
Wayne Gallman.
Yeah.
Wayne Gallman was all right, but not great. That team's not very good, not picking up a lot of first downs, and you need that elite talent of a Saquon Barkley to make that pick worth it. So I'm going to be trying to find players in that first round that if they did go down, God forbid, I'm going to have a handcuff available that I'm going to be able to slip in and not really lose too much. And for me right here, that was Dalvin Cook. I like the running back situation that any running back going to step into there in Minnesota. And I just think it's a safe play with still a lot of upside available. And so that's kind of where I'm taking. But that was kind of brought up an interesting question. I almost went with Derrick Henry, Johnny, just because that running situation is really nice in Tennessee. The line's pretty good. Darrynton Evans should be that prime handcuff. It's the running back that Tennessee took pretty early in the draft last year. He was hurt most of the season, so we didn't get to see what he was working with. But I think there's a lot of room in this first round right now to make a case for a lot of these guys being at the top. I think Christian McCaffrey is probably the consensus number one. But for me, we got a new situation. We got a new quarterback. He's coming off a very injured year. This is a guy who's still on the lighter side of things. I think there's a lot of offensive coordinators who would never aim to make Christian McCaffrey a 20-touch bell cow back. So for me, it almost Christian McCaffrey, I'm pausing a little bit as my consensus number one. And guys like Derrick Henry move up for me. Honestly, Nick Chubb moves up for me too. It's a pretty safe bet. They want to run a lot through Nick Chubb. But do you have any picks there then that you now think should be at the top one? Or is it still kind of this collection of people that you could make a case for? And then there's everybody else.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because over the last 24 hours, Twitter has been going absolutely nuts because Derrick Henry had posted a video came out of Derrick Henry catching passes. And it just Twitter blew up, went crazy. Oh my goodness, what, is this a year he goes off for 75 touches or, receptions? And, that's what we've been asking for the last 4 years. And, at this point, you play this game long enough and you kind of see these storylines that have played out time and time again. And then you realize when you need to actually dive into it and look into it, and when it could just be fluff stuff. We also have to remember a couple of years ago, Jordan Howard, the same thing came out.
Yeah. Okay.
Hold on. I know. And the same thing came out. We got all excited. Oh, Jordan Howard, already a beast running back. If he can get that receiving down work too, then it'll be the sky's the limit and all this stuff. And it didn't end up happening. And it happens more often times than, or it happens more. It doesn't happen more often than it does not.
I gotta ask you. We're talking about Derrick Henry. What did Derrick Henry finish as in standard leagues last year?
No, but it doesn't. Right. That's the whole point. Is it wasn't just in standard leagues he finished RB1. He finished the RB1 and PPR too. And that's the whole thing. Is he doesn't need to add that to his game in order to be an RB1. And you're still not having to pay the RB1 spot.
So is Derrick Henry though the RB1 right now? Is that actually who should be at the top of draft boards?
I wouldn't say that I would put him at the 101
as the number one overall.
If someone took him 101, I don't have any problem with it. I see the argument there. The same argument that you were saying for Christian McCaffrey last year on why he deserved to be
Elliott last year.
Yeah, but the problem that I have with taking Derrick Henry at number one overall is we've seen not only the story of how the receiving down work gets overhyped and it doesn't always result in him doubling his reception total, but not only that, you also see you see in history that the RB1 overall doesn't repeat back-to-back years. It's only been done 2 times in the last
that's such a silly stat to reflect on.
It is, but it's
you're not trying
it's
to
the reality.
Number one, who has the best shot to perform in the top 10? It doesn't matter if he finishes 1 or 3 or 5. You're looking for a guy who's going to be locked into an elite role. And a guy like Derrick Henry has the entire squad that runs through him. He's got the frame that we've seen unlike anybody. He had 2,000 yards last season. He was close to it the year before. If you're trying to pick the number one overall, fine. Maybe don't pick Derrick Henry. But if you're taking him number one, I don't know why that's not a good pick.
I'm not saying it's not. Once again, I preface this whole argument with saying if you want to take Derrick Henry number one overall, I have no argument against it. I'm not personally taking Derrick Henry number one overall because I have my research that I believe in and history has backed that stuff. And so I choose to not
that he's not
go
going to
that
repeat as
route.
number one. You don't want to take a
Correct.
number one because it's rare to have a number one repeat as the number one.
Correct.
But what other we got to factor
and here's the thing. Hold on. Here's the thing is, I know you're getting a little defensive on it, but I was saying the exact same thing about CMC last year. You can go back and check the tape because I got a lot of flack for it.
I faded CMC. I didn't take CMC 1-1 last year either, but it wasn't because he was the number one running back the year prior. It was because he's an undersized running back who they want to give a bell cow load to, and his body's going to break down, and I think his durability is going to come into question this year.
Okay, but on that,
like it's a different beast, right?
For sure. On that same token, though, like you're talking about mileage, Derrick Henry has a lot of mileage on him. He has been running 250 plus touches per year, and you just talked about how high that he's been producing. It's hard you can look at history of running backs who have done that specific thing, who have been beast running backs, and then the cliff is steep. Now, do I think Derrick Henry is at that cliff yet? No, I don't think so. I think he's still young enough where it's not necessarily to. Yeah, but right? It's 28. Yeah, 28 is usually the running back threshold when their high mileage running backs tend to fall off in production is after the age apex of 28 for running backs. Wide receivers, it's 32, age 32. And so that has been backed by data. So,
I think that this year, though, and this isn't the Derrick Henry show on this one, but I think that this year, Derrick Henry is going to try to do what no other running backs have been able to do. I think he's going to, this season, I think is really primed for it. Like, it's basically his team already. We've seen him get 2,000 yards. He's putting in extra work in the offseason to try to elevate his game. He's trying to become another level of running back. He is trying to bring in pass catching work to his game. And we can point to Jordan Howard and say, look how that flopped. We can also point to Todd Gurley and say, look at how well that took off when that happened.
Gurley was always a good receiver, though. It wasn't that Todd Gurley was
in the NFL. In college, he had hands, but he didn't play and actually catch. Look at the numbers.
I know, but that was under Derrick.
David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell are the best running backs in the game, and the reason why David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell are the best running backs in the game is because they catch passes. So if I want to be the best running back in the game, I got to catch passes too. And Todd Gurley dedicated himself that offseason to making it happen, and then he was the number one running back coming after that. And so it can work out in that kind of favor. Derrick Henry was already the number one running back, and he wasn't actually even catching passes. So it can only go up from the sense if we say the durability isn't actually a concern. The offensive line, the entire system, Ryan Tannehill, they got better on offense. And they're going to pick up more first downs this year than they did last year. I don't think Derrick Henry's going to lose a step. And I think he's actually going to pick up a few new skills that could take him into a scary level.
Like, okay, I think so you think, hold on. So you think
overall by a lot.
You think with them losing Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith that their offense is going to get better? And then on top of that,
Corey Davis did much of anything
on top of that, you were talking about Derrick Henry and like adding those receptions or having the offense more run through him. I think that's a possibility for sure. Now that they lost the weapons, I'm not trying to argue that, but you also comparing him to Todd Gurley when he went from his rookie year under Jeff Fisher, who is a terrible head coach. There's a reason why he's still not hired in the NFL. Sure. And then he went to Sean McVay, whose offense is one of the best. He's known as one of the best, probably top 5 offensive minded coaches. And he knew, hey, how do I get this guy the ball and get him and make him effective? I have to throw to him. So I don't say, oh, well, Todd Gurley worked a lot on Todd Gurley was a good pass catcher coming out of college. So that's a different, like, Derrick Henry's never been touted as a good catcher. That's the difference. But that was a good debate. That was a good debate. You want to catch people.
All we need to have Derrick Henry do is catch like 3 more passes and stuff could get weird. And hey, I drafted Leonard Fournette and I watched Leonard Fournette just drop the ball a lot last year. Embarrassingly so.
Mm-hmm.
But it always just blows me away that like these running backs can't go ahead and catch these ones here. But wow. Yeah, so that's a good talk on Derrick Henry.
Yeah. Let us know what you think about Derrick Henry this year and if you should be taking him at the 101.
I think I am feeling Derrick Henry though at the 101 right now. I think that's the safest call. I think if you're to pick a guy who's the most likely to be in the top 5 in running backs, it's hard for me not to go Derrick Henry in that
All right,
situation.
let me ask you the opposite then.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the top 5, because you're saying the safe, which I do admit that that's the strategy that I do like playing with when I'm mock drafting. Which, by the way, if you're hanging around this long and listening to us go on and on about the mock draft, we mock draft every Monday. If you want to join in, make sure you're following us, and we do all kinds of different drafts. We will break down each team at the end of the show. And so we just like picking out certain players to talk about throughout the show, and then we'll get more in depth on the rosters at the end. So stick with us, and appreciate you all for tuning in.
Very much.
I'm loving my team right now.
Let's see. Who do you got, Johnny? Here, Ezekiel Elliott, DeAndre Swift, Mike Evans, Melvin Gordon, Raheem Mostert. That's a running back stack situation. And Robert Woods.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe Robert Woods was there in the 6th, but that was good. Chelsea. Are we still talking Philly Chelsea? Are we still talking about Derrick Henry? Chelsea had Derrick Henry last year and told him, and her team was very, very good. I think that okay, so here's what I was going to ask you. I remembered first thing. We just talked about the safest play you think in the first 5 picks or first round. Who do you think is not the safest pick?
I was going to take Brandon Ayuk. Darn it.
Oh yeah, we get a little mock draft rage. We gotta snipe. Brandon Ayuk is Austin's boy. Who out of the top 5 do you think has the biggest likelihood to bust?
Right here in the players who were taken?
Sure, or the consensus, kind of what you've been seeing over the last,
Can I get your take first, and I'm gonna pretend I'm listening.
Oh yeah, that's right. My bad. I asked you at the wrong moment. I would say out of the top 5, so I would say Dalvin Cook usually goes right around the top. CMC, Saquon this is the first time Saquon's been kind of top 3. It's usually been Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara, and then it was Jonathan Taylor. And I would have said Jonathan Taylor, but he's now moved back a little bit. And I would actually still say, if I'm allowed to, I still think that Jonathan Taylor is the most risky first round pick that we have. Besides, Cam Akers getting up there in the first round is a little, if I could speak, a little bit risky. However, he usually goes in the second round. So I'm taking on a consensus ADP. I do think that Jonathan Taylor is the riskiest running back in that top round, because he has factors coming back that a lot of the other running backs don't have, right? Like we know the other situations that the other running backs have. Whereas Jonathan Taylor, when we last saw Mac in that backfield, it was Nyheim Hines, Mac, that were doing the 1 and 2 workload, and then Jonathan Taylor got a very few reps. And it wasn't until Mac went down that actually Jonathan Taylor started getting carries. And I'm not saying that that's how I projected this year, because obviously we saw how good Jonathan Taylor could be. And so I think it'll be him more as the primary running back. But I do think that Marlon Mack will steal more touches away than people think. And Nyheim Hines, although I think this does ultimately reduce his role, I do think that they'll get him in some receiving work. So I do think that he has the lowest ceiling or the lowest floor of any of the running backs in the first round.
Yeah, I like that take there, Johnny. I think I'm hearing what you're saying about Jonathan Taylor, and I'm kind of feeling about what I did here, just taking Devin Singletary right here, or the same thing I did in our League of Record draft in 2020, where I took Darrell Henderson Damian Harris and Sony Michel, where you pick up the situation where you're like, okay, I think Buffalo is going to have a pretty decent offense. I think it's going to be pretty versatile. I think it's Josh Allen's team now, but every team still wants to be able to run the ball. It gets cold in Buffalo. The run game is still going to be a factor. This is the narrative I'm telling myself. It's just the same thing I kind of told myself about New England's backfield last year. And so is it Sony Michel? Is it Damian Harris, Rex Burkhead, blah, 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 James White, all these different pieces. And it's this, you want opportunity and volume, but you really want explosive volume. You want the players who have the ability to take the top off, but you also still want that volume. And
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Taylor gives a lot of explosive volume, which is why he's, so highly touted.
Mm-hmm.
But you're totally right, man. Like Marlon Mack could come in, take 5 touches. Nyheim Hines could take 3 touches and get, 5 pass catches his way. And then all of a sudden, Jonathan Taylor is looking at maybe 12 to 15 total touches on average a game.
Mm-hmm.
And Indianapolis is cruising. They're winning games. They're resting their players. They're looking like a deep playoff team. And the Indianapolis Colts don't care about your fantasy football squad. So if this recipe is working for them and they're able to move it forward, that could really take some of the luster off of a Jonathan Taylor, which is why a Derrick Henry, though, for instance, is so attractive, because it's like you ain't replacing a Derrick Henry. You're not going to be able to committee approach the impact Derrick Henry makes. Same kind of thing with, honestly, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, and even Alvin Kamara. You just get a little concerned about if they really bring that volume back, because he needs those big plays to make something happen. And he's so good at them, one of the best we've ever seen. But if you don't make it happen in your 15 attempts, then it's a very underwhelming day.
Mm-hmm. And that's what, not only that, but then also, it's a good point you brought up, because Jonathan Taylor, when he played against, well, not only that, getting carries, struggled to get carries, but when he also played against good top 10 defenses, he also, he was touchdown reliant to even make him an RB2. If he didn't get the touchdown, he would have been, way down there. So it is something to take note of for sure. I'm really a little bummed out here.
What are you talking about?
I kind of wanted to take, I'm just going to pay up. No, I'm not. This is 8th round. What do I want to do? I don't know. Oh, gosh. Why did I? Kerryon Johnson? Are you kidding me? That was so horrible.
Why did you do that?
That was a panic one. I was trying to find a name, and I wasn't even. I meant to go Kenneth Gainwell at least. It was just right below it, and I accidentally clicked Kerryon. Kenneth Gainwell is an interesting name to take note of. Gaining a lot of steam in the NFL draft room hype. But I was also looking at a couple wide receivers here that maybe will fall to me in the next round. We'll see. Aaron Rodgers, I wanted the Chase Claypool pick right here at, Mr. Meeks.
Yeah.
Mr. Meeks. Nice. Yeah, that's a nice pick. I would have liked that if he would have fell to me.
You know what? This kind of inspires a fun idea here, Johnny. Which last week we did how did we frame it? It was a reach, a steal, or about right. Which I like to kind of go round by round, kind of how you started it off here, and say, who do we think was the biggest steal of that round? And then who was maybe the biggest reach of that round? And just going, we're in the 8th round here.
Okay.
I'll start it off. I'll ask here for, I'm looking at that. We'll just start with the 1st round. Mac here with Saturday Morning Snap. Make sure you give them a listen and a follow. If you haven't already, you'll do yourself a favor. M Tout 23 here, dropped in the 5 spot. I think Mac got the biggest steal for me. Like I said, I think that Derrick Henry is quickly moving up to my 1-1 spot, and he got him at 5. So for me, that's the biggest steal. And then the biggest reach that I see here is Cam Akers. I don't hate it, but I think it's a reach at that position. You know what you're doing there. You're taking a gamble. But that's for me, biggest steal, biggest reach in the 1st.
Yeah. I think so. The upside's definitely there, but I would agree with that. I think maybe, the computer did it. I would say Tyreek Hill at 104 and a standard is probably the number 1 reach there. But which is why normally we fill up these mock drafts, and why it's actually very important information that we're gathering when we do these mock drafts, because we're drafting against people that are good at drafting. And if you haven't or want to check us out, we draft every Monday right here on the Fantasy every Monday.
Like and subscribe, follow along on your favorite platforms. Johnny dropping the links to the Sleeper Room on Twitter. Yep. And we're answering all of our questions live on air. So join us in the live chat if you haven't had a chance to actually be a part of the room.
Also, if you could hit the thumbs up on this video and give it a like, we would greatly appreciate it. Hit subscribe if you are new to our channel. Let us know. We'll give you a shout out. Josh A, I do want to say Josh A real quick. Sorry I missed out on it today, boy. Well, and congrats on the 1K on Twitter. Appreciate that. Appreciate everyone on Whisper Nation for following us along. It really means a lot to us. We honestly couldn't do this without you guys. It would not be fun at all. And you guys give us so much energy and excitement to do what we love to do.
It wouldn't be any fun.
Right. Exactly. But getting back to your question, Austin, what I would say is, yeah, Tyreek Hill for me is the base. Yeah. But it's a computer pick, so we already don't like computers, so it's okay.
Yeah. So what about the second round there then? Biggest reach, biggest steal in that second round.
Once again, computer coming in strong. Biggest reach would be Josh Jacobs in that second round.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Me and overall running back last year in all formats.
So Ryan and I, we had Ryan Weiss on last Friday on our live show, and we got into a really good topic about the running backs, the Las Vegas Raiders running backs now with Kenyon Drake there, and what we, kind of foreshadowed. And the problem is like they're both voluminous running backs, and yeah, exactly. That word. And so we think that like they'll kind of cannibalize each other. And so they don't, if you look at it, right, the backfield that I comped it to, and the stats would kind of back it up, would be actually the Arizona Cardinals running backfield. Now I brought them up as an example because as you can see, Chase Edmonds went in the 7th spot, or in the 7th round, end of the 7th. Right. And we'll see when James Conner comes off the board, probably not till like the 13th round or something like that. Right. Well, the Cardinals offensive or the Cardinals rushing last year, they had more rushing touchdowns and more rushing yards. They were top 5 in the league last year. Las Vegas, top 11. Right. So you're already talking about a lower ceiling for these guys in general. They Raiders lost their offensive lineman. They're the best center in football. He is now for the Cardinals, or the center for the Cardinals now. So with that being said, like the reason I bring up Arizona is once again, like that's a running backfield. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to be a part of that. But the draft capital involved in that is so significantly less. And it seems to be a better situation, even if you go with James Conner. If you think James Conner is the guy, that's fine.
Ends up being the dude, right?
It's fine. You're talking about what's the draft capital of both those guys. Whereas, like right now, the draft capital for the Raiders, Drake going in the 6th round, and you have Josh Jacobs going in the 2nd. It doesn't make much sense because that's a worse offense. We know that.
John, I like that point too. I think the counter would come in there on Josh Jacobs being. John Gruden loves Josh Jacobs so much and really puts him in this position. But that, to me, alludes to the wild card nature Gruden carries with him, the unpredictability that is John Gruden. Drake coming over there, he's got some appeal. Like, Drake is one of those guys who you're always kind of like, maybe he should have been more. I saw that one play. If we could only. You know what I mean? And so John Gruden, I'm like, I'm going to untap this guy the same way I'm going to untap Ryan, whatever the quarterback that he's always trying to make something, or these weird signings that he always it's just like the unpredictability of John Gruden is real. Part of which is what made Josh Jacobs such a great fantasy pick early on in the season. I mean, heck, even him being drafted as the 1st overall running back 2 years ago was a little bit of a shocker. Don't put it past John Gruden to shock the world though whenever he feels like it.
He loves doing that. I think it'll be interesting because Kenyon Drake didn't get a lot of receptions last year, but I do think Josh Jacobs will get the early down work, and I think Kenyon Drake will get. He's a more efficient booker, right? Like I think that's what they were looking for, and so he'll get like all the passing down work, which will be funny because it was like that was what everyone was complaining about Kenyon Drake this past year. Is like, oh, he sucks at receiving, but that's what I'm.
Johnny, you're so right. For me, I'm looking at, you really helped me on this one with Josh Jacobs. I'm interested to see what other folks here at Whisper Nation thinks. We've got Yaz saying saw Jacobs go in the 4th yesterday in PPR Dino startup, was surprised. I think if I'm looking, where do I really believe Josh Jacobs should go? If I was breaking down my order for everybody, I was doing 150 players, lining them all out and how I would draft it. I'm probably putting Josh Jacobs. I'm probably having a real hard decision between Josh Jacobs and Chris Carson for me. That's
That
where
high?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think so, because I think, and I'm probably taking Chris Carson. I'm probably skewed because of just like the sexiness Josh Jacobs still brings. Like, this is a top 10 running back-to-back years, still young, arguably should even be better. And so that's going to capture my attention a little bit. Chris Carson, I see, is dealing with a lot of other running backs as Seattle always employs. He's the lead dog, but there's always a lot of running backs that make their way onto the field for Seattle. Seattle's a little bit better of a squad, but they become real pass heavy. Yeah, I think that's where it starts falling for me, Johnny. Do I want to take Najee Harris or Travis Etienne before, even in this mock situation? No, I still like Josh Jacobs. I like the upside Miles Sanders brings more than the upside I think Josh Jacobs brings. I don't think we're going to get a better season out of a Josh Jacobs than we've already seen. I think that, though, could be untrue for Miles Sanders. I think Miles Sanders could still have his best fantasy season yet to come.
Mm-hmm. Wow, interesting. Well,
maybe David, but I'd also move David Montgomery up a little bit. I'd also move Melvin Gordon up a little bit. I think Melvin Gordon would be going up higher.
So, because of the computer, it's a little wonky here. James Conner somehow went in the 5th round, which is crazy, but it was to a computer, so surprise, surprise. The wild, what
earlier or later?
Way later. I mean, his ADP is going, like, when we have a draft room full, like, his ADP is like 11th round, 12th.
It is going up.
It is going up, but that 5th round, I would not pay that at all. Like, my money is on Chase Edmonds this year. What I didn't even notice, and I don't know how he passed me, and I didn't even notice this. Probably because I was talking, but I think the biggest steal right now in the draft would be Captain Bob in the 5th round getting J.K. Dobbins. I don't know how he fell. I would have definitely taken. I have no idea. That was wild because I would have definitely taken Dobbins if I had noticed him. That was on me. But always pay attention, people, in your drafts. Always pay attention and scroll down because you never know what wonky ADP stuff's going on. Dobbins, although I am lower than the consensus person on Dobbins, I do think that Dobbins should be going, in the late 3rd, early 4th, right around where the Melvin Gordon, David Montgomery is going. But for me, as far as Josh Jacobs go, in all honesty, like, I would put him, I think, in like the end of the 5th round, early 6th round is like the earliest I would honestly consider taking him. And that's because Todd Gurley and David Johnson, they'll fall back. But like, I can't sit here and say, like, I would rather have Josh Jacobs than Raheem Mostert this next year. I can't say that I would rather have.
For you? Raheem Mostert and Josh Jacobs is a split for you?
It is, yeah. I would rather have Raheem Mostert. I think that what I've been reading out of beat reporters and stuff is they have big plans for Raheem Mostert this next year. Now, will he stay healthy? That's been his whole question. But we definitely have seen him produce when he's on the field. So I think a 5th rounder gamble for that kind of caliber player is totally worth it, especially at the running back position and that system we know, and they should get a better quarterback in there. We'll see on the draft and how that goes. But that's, like, right after that is where I would say, okay, that's where you should probably consider taking him. Because then after that, you're looking at guys like, Marlon Mack, Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, Mike Davis. Like,
Josh Jacobs needs to be ahead of those people. I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Interesting point. Maybe that is the line.
Yeah,
I think you're inflating Raheem Mostert a little bit, maybe not incorrectly, and you're deflating Josh Jacobs a little bit, not necessarily incorrectly, but you think that's where the actual value is going to kind of. I mean, honestly, that's not a bad take. If we take like age off the table, if we take all these things that don't really matter, but we try to pretend like they do, We try to say that age is going to help predict how athletic they are, how productive they are, how hungry they are, X, Y, and Z, whatever. But you got Raheem Mostert, who should be clearly leading the way for a pretty good team that has a lot of depth. That's the same thing for Josh Jacobs, right? Like, maybe is even a little less good. Maybe has a slightly better quarterback than Derek Carr, but a slightly worse team than the 49ers. Yeah, I think that's actually probably pretty fair, Johnny.
Yeah.
We'll see Josh Jacobs go way earlier than Raheem Mostert, but maybe that's kind of fair.
Oh, Austin, I just saw that. Saw your Mike Williams, 11th round pick, beginning of the I want to talk about this. Is interesting that you picked him. I love that you picked him. I think that a lot of people could be sleeping on him, and the reason why it was, I saw this on Twitter, so shout out. I can't remember the user that had commented on it, but I thought it was really interesting. They had it was a Pro Football Focus kind of tweet, and it said, like, who is this year's, mega breakout, like, too late breakout, basically, like the Devontae Parker, the Corey Davis. And, I'm trying to think of what I would respond with. And I was checking out some of the comments, and someone put Mike Williams. And I started to think about the case study, right? And then I was looking at a couple of numbers, betting a couple numbers and things like that. And it's very similar situation. And you could argue that everything is lining up to where that he could for sure be that guy. Do you think so? And if you do, where realistically would you start taking him or think about taking him?
Full disclosure, I've been on the big Mike Williams train for the last couple of years. There's a couple of these players that you always just say, they're gonna make it happen here coming up. In basketball, it's been Andrew Wiggins, fantasy for me all the time. But that's neither here nor there. But Mike Williams, I think, really does have a real shot at it. And here's why. The biggest counterpoint to that would be his previous levels of productivity and which you could attribute to health, which you could say would still be a factor here. But I believe that Mike Williams has demonstrated more toughness and an ability to recover recently than he did early on in his season. And he's had weird kinds of injuries happen with him in the same way his teammate Keenan Allen did earlier in his career, with the spleen issue, with weird tendon things. It's not it was just kind of weird things that ended up happening to him. I see Mike Williams in a similar capacity there. Mike Williams, we saw have some great rapport here and there with Justin Herbert, which is exciting. We saw big Mike Williams be a phenomenal deep threat, which is what he's supposed to be. He just didn't get a ton of opportunity with it. But this year we've seen the vacation of Hunter Henry, who is that big body presence that has had a rapport with the Chargers there for a long time. He's gone now. Big Mike Williams is kind of a tight end physical form. He's 220 pounds roundabout. He's 6'4" plus. He's a big dude. And here's the thing that's surprising. He's only 26 years old. And that's when you talk about Devontae Parker, when you talk about Corey Davis, when you talk about some of these guys who broke out a little bit later, Big Mike Williams has been slowed down by injuries. He's been slowed down by the role. It's been weird things that have kind of happened. I'm not saying he's a guarantee, but he has a real shot to be a legitimate. Oh no, why did it? I'm not supposed to be on auto pick.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh, whatever.
Apparently it liked what you were saying on it liked what you were saying, so they're like, oh, we'll just make the picks for you.
Yeah, I guess so. But I think that I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there's reasons to believe we have not seen the best yet of Mike Williams, and the situation he's coming into right now is going to encourage higher levels of production and require more out of him to win football games than has been required in the past. We might just see Mike Williams have to be more than he's been, and I think he's fully capable of being more.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head when you talk about unrealized air yards. He was 14th in the league with 660 unrealized air yards. So, and then only had 5 touchdowns. And so I think that there is a huge opportunity there, right? Because you look at the air yards total or opportunity in air yards, right? Just over 1,200 air yards, and air yard share was at 28.9%, which is pretty significant for the team. And you're looking at his target market share was just 18%, Austin. So pretty low for, a big bodied wide receiver like that. And so I think that, in the second year with Herbert, if he can get a full healthy training camp, which will be really, really big. That's been his whole thing. But that's also been something that's kind of been similar with, Parker and Corey Davis, was like they were hampered by these like nagging little injuries early. And then when they were able to stay healthy for a full season, that was when the breakout happened. And you have to be there before that happens so you can take advantage of it, as opposed to being late, because next year you're going to have to pay up when people see, oh, this is his true upside and his true potential. So I do think that Mike Williams will be a guy that's going to be probably on my breakout list or sleeper list.
And he's been on my breakout
forward.
list for the last 2 seasons, but it's still, although the points still stand.
I mean, I honestly, I think the points just get stronger, right? At this point, like I think it's even more because you've seen, what he could do. You can see where Herbert, like obviously, like you look in and see Herbert right now, and you're like super confident in everything that he can do, and you're more confident in the situation now than 2 years ago with Philip Rivers at the age of 99 playing football, and then you had Tyrod Taylor, which no disrespect to Tyrod Taylor, love the guy, but he's not like a world beater quarterback like Herbert potentially could be.
Yeah, exactly. We got some good points here coming in the sleeper chat. So we can't see these here on live or on YouTube if you're following us through that platform. But I think that our Whisper Nation here is dropping some really good points. Mr. Mystique says tight end is such a dumpster fire that odds are you won't be starting whoever you grab late all season. Kind of true on this one. I think a lot of those breakout candidates we expected last year are on notice, have been seen, and we're filling through with a new group of could-be's. Like I think the Jonnu Smiths and the Irv Smiths here actually, it's always that position. But we got a mention here of, I think it was Captain Bog. If the Eagles don't take a tight end in the draft, then Goddard will have a good year.
Yes, I agree. I think that's why you're kind of seeing Derek. I was reading Derrick Henry here. I think that's why you're kind of seeing his draft stock as of right now be a little bit lower than it is, because there are still a couple pieces that need to fall. So talking about if you're in a dynasty league right now, I think right now is a great time to go out and get Goddard, because the news hasn't broke about Ertz, which I think could happen the next week or so because of the NFL draft coming up. Yeah. And so once that happens, again, you talk about windows, closing. At that point, everyone will be like, "Oh, they didn't draft a tight end and they let go of or traded Ertz. Goddard's now the guy," and I think he'll then shoot up potentially to right after T.J. Hawkinson and Kyle Pitts. Probably that area is right around where you'll start seeing him.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, Johnny, we've done it. We got another mock draft in the books.
It wasn't pretty. It was not pretty. Today was definitely a Monday.
We missed you, Big Travie.
Yeah, we missed you, Big Travie. But it was fun nonetheless. But we're not done. Our job is not done yet.
No, it's not. Thank goodness. We got our own teams we'll break down. Myself and Johnny will go through ours, let you know what we're thinking. You let us know who you think did better. Let us know which team you like in the chat below. And then we'll go through the remaining person drafts, break it down, and give our draft grades. You ready for it, Johnny?
Yep. I do want to say that before we get into this part, this is if you're thinking about leaving, hold up. I would just pause for just a second, because this is where we kind of differentiate ourselves from other podcast shows and stuff like that. We're gonna dive into why we think you like strategy wise on certain teams. So it's a lot of information and very beneficial, so you can kind of navigate your own draft. And so we'll give you tips and tricks. So stay tuned.
Around the league.
All right, Austin, break down your team.
All right, I went the 1-1. I went with Dalvin Cook, and we mock, so we see how it feels. And Dalvin Cook feels okay, but I think I would have gone Derrick Henry again if I'm playing for upside, but also safety and security. I want to make sure I can rely on my first overall pick. I didn't even pick up Alexander Madison here as the handcuff, which is partially due to the auto selection at the end, but is what it is. So Dalvin Cook, high ceiling. We know what he's about. I feel really comfortable he'll be a top 5 running back, and that's really what I'm looking to grab early on in the draft, is more of a guarantee, not so much a lotto ticket. DeAndre Hopkins and George Kittle. I decided to go with that 3 elite strategy, forego a running back, try to fill it in later and get myself some positional advantage. So Dalvin Cook, DeAndre Hopkins, and George Kittle. Very happy about those fitting into that strategy. And then Kyler Murray there on the backside of the 4th round. I am excited about him. He flirted with the number 1 spot for a few weeks last season and finished as the 3rd overall quarterback. I think he's going to be as good, if not better, next season, barring health. Leonard Fournette, if you go 4 rounds there, not taking another running back, you got to get what you can get. Leonard Fournette has that upside playing for Tampa Bay. Obviously, Ronald Jones is still in the mix. We don't know what's going to happen with the draft. A lot of pieces still unknown, but Leonard Fournette's going to be playing for a lot. He definitely showed us flashes last year. It's a very talented running back at age 26, coming here into his 5th season, playing for that bag. I like the upside of Leonard Fournette, who wants to be in Tampa Bay. They wanted him enough to sign him. So as my second running back, I'm not hating that one, considering the strengths I have at the other position. DJ Chark, who I think is going to benefit from Trevor Lawrence being behind center, along with the coaching switch up in Jacksonville, is only a benefit to his potential upside. Not hating that selection. Then Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, just tried to get what I think will be the backfield. We got to deal with Matt Breida, who was signed by Buffalo. We also got to deal with the shoddy running we saw out of these 2 running backs last year, but I think there's a couple of variables that contributed to their lack of production that could be removed this season. And hey, you're getting them in the 7th and 8th rounds, but I think both of these guys have a chance to be really productive running backs, and really whoever the starting running back for Buffalo is. Need some things to happen, but that's why you get them later. Marquis Brown, that's more of just a fun pick for the mock. I don't think he's really going to be doing a lot. I think he's shown us that there's a world where it could happen. We're all holding out for it. We see the upside of a speed demon receiver being in a great relationship with Lamar Jackson. I just don't know if it's going to come to fruition, but it's fun. It looks nice on paper, so that's what I went ahead and did. Christian Kirk and Mike Williams are 2 upside wide receiver plays, number 2s on their team, but with a lot of talent and opportunity, if they get it, could be throwing them into that wide receiver 2 conversation potentially. And then James White and Jared Cook, those were auto selections. Otherwise, I would have tried to grab the backup here to Dalvin Cook, and then maybe see who was available at maybe tight end at a different selection, or maybe a quarterback, get myself a backup quarterback there instead. And that's my team.
Nice. I like that team. I like what you did there in the beginning. The 4, I know you start with like the 3 elite, quote unquote strategy that we talk about on the show, but really it kind of fell into a 4 elite with Kyler Murray. I do think Kyler Murray will have a big year this year with another year under his belt. That 3rd year leap. We'll see if he could take it. But well done, Austin. I really like that team. I'll jump over here talking about my team real quick. I'll break it down, and then we'll start breaking down Whisper Nation's teams that they drafted real quick. So first off, I took Ezekiel Elliott at the 110 spot. I think that that's a steal where he's going right there. I feel really confident in that. I think that at the worst case scenario, Ezekiel Elliott falls at that kind of running back right there. I took DeAndre Swift in the 2nd round. He was on the thumbnail, so I had to go with it. And also, he's my boy. So yeah, so I had to go with that one. Mike Evans in the 3rd. This was, once again, I still am a little shocked whenever I see Mike Evans in the 3rd. It still blows my mind. He's been one of the most consistent wide receivers we have seen in the NFL. He continues to do it, and he gets Tom Brady back. So sign me up for that. Melvin Gordon. So yeah, Mike Evans, my wide receiver 1. Melvin Gordon in the 4th. I like this. We talked about this pick, the J.K. Dobbins. If I would have known that, I would have had him right there. Even in a standard league, I still like that. But I mean, Melvin Gordon, very excited about what he could be. I think he is, his value is tremendous right now due to where he is going in drafts. Raheem Mostert, we had a good conversation about Raheem Mostert. I think he has potential this year. If he can stay healthy, that's always the big if. But in the 5th round, I think that's pretty good draft value right there. Robert Woods in the 6th to grab another wide receiver. TJ Hawkinson in the 7th, one of my favorite tight ends to go this year. Kerryon Johnson, that was not a great. That was a computer pick. I did, yeah. That was horrible. Will Fuller in the 9th. I like Will Fuller's upside even in Miami. I like Tua. I think that he could get the ball to Will Fuller. Rondell Moore. This was kind of another little panic pick, but I also do like Rondell Moore's upside, depending on what team he can go to. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of different flavor of picking a rookie. I usually don't go that route. Jalen Hurts, really like him as a quarterback this year. I took him late, and then Tyler Higbee. I doubled down on tight end, so that way I'm real big fan of Tyler Higbee this year, and so I wanted him, keep them away from people. And so it's a strategy that you can go with, because it's kind of creating a scarcity out of a position that is a limited quantity or quality of player. So it is a good strategy, I think. And then Sterling Shepard to close it out there. So ultimately, I had some really good parts. I was really excited, Austin, in the beginning of this draft for like the first 6 rounds, 7 rounds, and then the Kerryon thing just kind of got in my head a little bit, and then after that I was a little bit scrambling.
I think it worked out pretty well on this one, though. I mean, geez, dude, honestly, your first 7 picks there are so solid with Zeke and DeAndre Swift and your starting running back spots, good floor, good ceiling. Then Melvin Gordon, Raheem Mostert, like those guys could outdo those other 2 a handful of weeks. No shocker there. Mike Evans, Robert Woods, you're feeling really good seeing those in your wide receiver spots. TJ Hawkinson at your tight end. Nice. And then Kerryon Johnson, let's hope that he's the handcuff for DeAndre Swift, not Jamal Williams.
So I don't look complete idiot on this mock.
But then after that, it's like, I run my own podcast here, and it took Kerryon Johnson in the eighth. It happens. It happens to the best of us. But then I really love your 9 through 13, man. Like Will Fuller, we know he's dealing with the suspension and the issues in the new team, but his upside is as much as any wide receiver, and you're getting him there in the 9th round. Rondell Moore, exciting rookie. Jalen Hurts is my sleeper quarterback pick. I think that he's the dark horse top 5 if he can hold that job. And then Higbee, another great upside tight end play that you don't care if you drop. And Sterling Shepard could be that lead dog on an improved Giants team. So, well done, man.
Appreciate it. All right, you want to go over Captain Bob's squad here? I like what he's doing here.
I think Captain Bob had a hell of a draft. It was
he
awesome
did a good
to have him with us and being so active in the sleeper chat. So great drafting alongside you, Captain Bob. Glad to have you here in Whisper Nation. He takes Christian McCaffrey at the 1-2. No surprise there. I would have, I think most of us would have done the same or taken him even earlier. James Robinson there in the 2nd. I think that's a solid pickup. You're getting a running back who was last year in the top 7, spent a lot of it in the top 5, who looks like it could be even in a better spot. Some question marks we know that he's going to be dealing with for the undrafted rookie with a new coach and a new regime in Jacksonville, but it could work out in his favor, and you get him there at the end of the 2nd round for what could be a nice bell cow, voluminous back. And then I love his 2 wide receivers here, hot dang, with Stephon Diggs and Keenan Allen. Enormous upside for both of these wide receivers. Start with Keenan Allen. He's only age 28. It feels like he's been in the league for a decade, but he's only 28 years old. He had stupid volume with Justin Herbert at points in last season. I mean, I'm talking 19 targets in week 11, double-digit targets for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 weeks. He had double-digit targets, Keenan Allen did. 2 times he had 19 targets. That's just like unheard of. Love what Keenan Allen's about. Love his attitude as well. And the same thing can be said for Stephon Diggs. Last year's breakout wide receiver. We're talking a top 5 wideout, number 3 in both PPR and in standard, who he got in the 3rd round. Very nice, Captain Bob. And then J.K. Dobbins in the 5th. That might be the biggest steal of the entire draft. Brandon Ayuk coming in the 6th round. My God, the athleticism this rookie demonstrated last year was insane. And multiple 100-yard games. I think he's going to be even better this season. Josh Allen is his quarterback. Oh, my God, it keeps getting better. In the 7th round. What? I took Kyler Murray in the 4th. Captain Bob gets Josh Allen in the 7th. Captain Bob wins. That's a phenomenal pickup right there for last year's number 1 overall quarterback, who should be better than he was last season. Okay. Mike Davis is probably going to be the starting back for Atlanta. Maybe it's Ito Smith. Who cares? I like the upside play there, especially when you got 3 solid running backs behind him. Devontae Parker and Robbie Anderson, good upside, fine plays. Darrell Henderson. Cam Akers and him went back and forth many times last year. We're really locking Cam Akers into that role, but crystal balls can be foggy this early in the season. I think Darrell Henderson in the 11th is a really nice dart throw. Irv Smith down there, that should be nice. I got him in the 12th round, tight end for Minnesota, and then Elijah Moore. You got a rookie wide receiver coming in the 13th round. This is a phenomenal team, Johnny. I got to give it's an A. It's a hard A.
Yeah, I think this is one of his best teams that he's drafted. This is phenomenal.
This is one of the best drafted teams I've seen us do ever in mock drafting, and here's why. We've said it before, to get a solid A, you need to get lucky. You can't just draft a solid A team. You need to have other people around you mess up and create value found later on in the draft that they missed and you capitalized on. That's exactly what Captain Bob did here. He had smart picks with the players he had available, but then dudes that fell to him like Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen, that's such a sexy double dip that he got at a crazy value. Brandon Ayuk, crazy value. Yeah, this is a phenomenal team. Christian McCaffrey, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs.
Yeah,
he has 3 elites.
Yeah,
and he didn't draft it like I did. Yeah, this is one of the best mock drafted teams I've seen on here on our Mondays in a while. Well done, Captain Bob.
Nice. I just wanted to give a shout out Jay the Plug. He jumped in here. Appreciate you, man. What's up?
What's up, man?
He puts out amazing content. I love that guy. All right. I will go over. We got Mac here. This is his team from the Snap. Make sure you follow them. They are. We have a link to their channel at the bottom of our YouTube channel. They are a brother channel. So make sure you follow them. They have great content as well. Let's see what he did here. Mac took Derrick Henry at the 105. We had a very long discussion about Derrick Henry. So, I like where he got him. I thought it was a great pick. Austin Eckler in the second round and Chris Carson in third. I love his first 3 picks here. I think that they're very solid picks. Like those are really good running backs to have to build your foundation off of. I think they're all going to get solid workload. And they're pretty safe floors as well, I think, in my opinion. Allen Robinson in the 4th grabs his number 1 wide receiver. I like Allen Robinson. We'll see what Andy Dalton can do to Allen Robinson, but it seems that no matter who the quarterback is for Allen Robinson, he can produce. Darren Waller as his tight end in the 5th. I think that's an absolute steal. I was looking at Darren Waller a little bit where I took Melvin Gordon. So I think getting Darren Waller in the 5th is great value. OBJ in the 6th, I think that's right where he should be going. I think that he has upside, and as to be his wide receiver 2, I think is very, very solid. Justin Herbert is his quarterback. I love this pick. I think Justin Herbert, there's a tier after Justin Herbert that falls off as far as the quarterback position goes. And I'm a big fan of Justin Herbert. This year, Deontay Johnson, Jarvis Landry, and Jerry Jeudy are his 3 wide receivers, that he got in the 8th, 9th, and 10th round. I think that they have very solid floors, and the upside is definitely there with Deontay and Jarvis. We've definitely seen it. We'll see about Jerry Jeudy. If you have a bounce back season 2, I think they might need to get a better quarterback in that's more accurate than Drew Lock, but we'll see what they do in the draft. Jamar Jefferson in the 11th, rookie running back. We'll see where he goes. Joe Burrow in the 12th, and Darrington Evans in the 13th to lock up his number 1 draft spot here. I really like this team. I would honestly give this one. It's not as sexy as Captain Bob's, right? But I will say that this is probably one of my more favorite Mac drafts that he's had. And I would give him probably either an A- or B+, like right in the middle.
I think I'm going. I really like this squad. I'm closer to the A- side for me.
Mm-hmm.
Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, or Chris Carson. I'm pretty scared looking at that stack if I'm the opponent playing those 2 running backs. Allen Robinson, Odell Beckham, or Deontay Johnson, or Jarvis Landry in that 2 spot. That's really nice. Tons of upside, nice floor too. Justin Herbert showed us that he can sling it with anybody. I'm definitely bummed if Josh Allen was taking just 2 picks ahead, but I'm not even surprised if Justin Herbert ends up being this year's Josh Allen. He could even be in one of those beneficial situations where they're not actually trying to win as many games. They're just like going as hard as they can, and which could benefit Josh Allen or Justin Herbert. You know what I mean? Where they're just throwing it a little bit more than they need to, but that's what they're doing. And then Deontay Johnson could be a wide receiver 1 this year. Gets his handcuff there at Darrington Evans. Jamar Jefferson could be a really nice upside running back rookie play. So I think that he's just stacked everywhere. I think he gives up good upside. I don't think he has any vulnerabilities either. So,
all right. Jacob Bley, our number 1 fan, drafting at the 108 spot. Austin, you want to take this one?
Yeah, he takes Jonathan Taylor there at number 8, right after Nick Chubb, which is a great selection. I would love in a real draft to find myself taking Jonathan Taylor right after Nick Chubb. He takes Travis Kelce, the number 1 tight end, and Patrick Mahomes there in the 3rd. So he gets a really fun double dip with Kelce and Mahomes. That's going to be money and win you weeks on its own. Chris Godwin as his starting wide receiver. Okay. Kareem Hunt and Ronald Jones. I like the upside and the floor with these ones. We got some things to see of how it develops in Tampa Bay, but that's why you're getting Ronald Jones where you are. And Kareem Hunt, we know his upside is kind of capped with Nick Chubb over there, but we've also seen him perform better when Nick Chubb's on the field. Kareem Hunt is a guy you have no issue with rostering from a playmaking side. Deebo Samuel is his wide receiver 2. I like it. Latavius Murray and Alexander Madison. Couple of handcuffs. You need some things to happen. Really valuable handcuffs, but you need something to happen. They might not be doing you a lot of work unless the guys ahead of them have issues. Michael Gallup, I think, is getting slept on a lot, but there is still Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb ahead. So maybe rightfully so, but as the 3rd of those wide receivers going, I think it's a value. Corey Davis in New York, going to have a new quarterback throwing the ball, going to have a new coach. It's an upside play. Corey Davis is going to be his 26 going on 27. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Showing us that he can get it done. It's just about having it consistently happen over the course of the season. He's got Tom Brady as his backup quarterback and Kadarius Toney there as a rookie wide receiver dart throw in the 13th. I think that's a pretty good squad. I like his, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, got 2 elites right there. Jonathan Taylor is going to be really solid for you. Feeling good about that. Chris Godwin and Deebo Samuel aren't bad. They're not great. They're not bad. There's no holes on this team, but there are a couple of if not weaknesses, not strengths. So I think this is a comfortable B squad for me with upside.
Yeah, there's definitely tremendous upside there. But I think that one thing, like looking back, is probably instead of the Chris Godwin pick here, we were talking about, having, if you would have had like J.K. Dobbins there in the 4th, and then I don't mind so much the Kareem Hunt because I think it's a complete upside play and he's an RB2 even with Chubb. So I'm fine with that pick there, even though like if you would have went J.K. Dobbins in the 4th and then, maybe grabbed a Terry McLaurin or DJ Moore in the 5th round, then it's like, okay, that I think that I like that just a little bit more. Or even if you were just to go J.K. Dobbins in the 4th, I know it's a little scary, but even going Kareem Hunt in the 5th, and then look what you have in the 6th, where you have, guys like, I guess Robert Woods and them are off the board, but Brandon Ayuk, DJ Chark, those guys I think could be wide receiver 1s, potentially low end wide receiver 1s. I don't think maybe a high end, but I just think that maybe if you have that, it doesn't, you're kind of balancing out your team a little bit more. You're raising your floor and without sacrificing much ceiling, in my opinion.
It could have been a clean one right there, right? And I mean, I missed J.K. Dobbins. I took Leonard Fournette.
We all did. Yeah, we all did. We blame Sleeper on that one.
But if you take J.K. Dobbins there in the 4th, and then you take Ayuk or Chark in the 6th, I like that.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go to Fred Beasy. I think he is new to our mock drafts. I don't think he's been in here before. So I want to say appreciate you for stopping in and mock drafting with us. Make sure you hit subscribe. And if you want to mock with us next week, please join us. All right, let's break down your team, man. Cam Akers in the first, we've talked about that, whether or not what we think if he should be there. I think it's actually fine. If you like Cam Akers and you don't think he'll get to you in the second pick, then definitely. And probably can guarantee he's probably not going to make you to you in the second round. So I don't mind you taking that gamble there. Joe Mixon in the second, I think that's pretty fair value. It's a little bit higher than what he's been going, but to pair him with Cam Akers, I think you have a very solid foundation at running back there. Justin Jefferson in the third as your wide receiver one. As your wide receiver one, I do think it's a little risky because I do think that there could be some regression coming for Justin Jefferson this next year. However, I do think that he's going to give you wide receiver 1 weeks for sure. And I think at worst, he's going to be a wide receiver 2 at the end of the year. So I don't mind that play there because of what you did later on in the draft specifically. Javonte Williams, I really like him, and you took him in the 4th. I like him depending on where he goes. You took Terry McLaurin in the 5th, and then Cortland Sutton in the 6th, which I think is a very nice move. And I think it solidifies what you did earlier with the Justin Jefferson pick and makes your team really, really balanced there as far as running backs and wide receivers. Now, Kyle Pitts in the 7th. I'm not a fan of Kyle Pitts.
I'm getting started.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Kyle Pitts' rookie year, but I could be wrong. So if he's your guy, I would rather have other guys than Kyle Pitts. I think it's too much of a gamble. I think people are going to be disappointed. So that's where I like about, or that's what I think about Kyle Pitts. Deshaun Watson in the 8th. We haven't talked about. Yeah, we haven't talked about this a whole lot on our show, but I do not believe he plays this year. So Deshaun Watson is completely off my board. I doubt he plays. He's got a lot of legal issues going on, so we'll see what happens with that. But I'm just staying away. I'm just letting everyone know where I'm at with it as far as drafting him. I'm just staying away. I don't think he plays. Michael Carter in the 9th. Again, another rookie. He went really heavy on these rookie running backs, but not a bad idea depending on landing spot. And we've seen rookie running backs come and make impact quickly, so it's not terrible. Terrence Marshall, we'll see where he lands. Good upside, a wide receiver for sure. I think he's underrated. Curtis Samuel, love that pick in the 12th, and Jalen Reagor in the 13th. I think that's a really good upside pick as well. I think that what you did ultimately was pretty nice, other than the tight end and the quarterback position you're going to need. So with those two things out of the way, or docked, I would give this a much lower grade. I would probably give it like a C+, but that's because I don't think Deshaun Watson plays at all. But other than that, if you take away, like that fact, and maybe you just went with a different quarterback, I think that this is it would much improve your team. Completely. I'd probably put it at like a B. I'd probably put it at a B if like he had, like a Jalen Hurts, or even if he had a Matt Ryan, like I would,
if he hit,
or Tom.
It's just it's a hole right now. And we're saying fill it with something that just makes it for not even a hole. We're not even saying put a mountain in replace of that hole. Somebody with a sky-high ceiling. I think it is interesting to note with Justin Jefferson, Johnny, he had 5 consecutive games to close the year where he was out-targeted over Adam Thielen.
Oh, I know.
It's one of those wild things, right? Because it's like it's a really nice situation where Adam Thielen, he's over 30 now. He's really good, but Justin Jefferson's on the up. And if he was closing out the season, coming ahead, and the real question comes though in, right? Like if Justin Jefferson is going to not regress, if Justin Jefferson is going to get better, as you'd hope for a sophomore to do, he's on pace to be one of the greatest wide receivers of all time.
Yeah, we've mentioned this before on the show, and it should be noted again. Like his rookie season was the only person that comps to his rookie season was Odell Beckham Jr. Like that's how good of a season he had as far as like his stats against like man versus press, yards per game, where he broke out as far as a wide receiver. And so and you're not even having to pay what you had to pay for OBJ the following year, right? You're not having to pay that for Justin Jefferson, which is why I think ultimately it's fine that, I like his value where he's going, but I do have a little bit of worry that offense maybe regresses a little bit because Adam Thielen is a little older, things like that. But certainly, like, I'm not going to be surprised if Justin Jefferson is, finishes a top 5 wide receiver. I would be like, yeah, he's talented enough to do so. So that's why I think he's a great value where he's at.
I'm excited to witness.
Yeah.
Yaz here in the comments says, hoping Sutton comes back strong. Got him in 3 of 4 teams.
I think, yeah, I'm excited to see where Sutton back with full health, hopefully. And we did see a rapport that he did have when he was actually able to actually produce with Drew Lock and make spectacular catches. But you want to break down the Cat's Pajamas, and then I'll take Mr. Meeseeks, and we'll close out the show.
That's what we'll do here. Cat's Pajamas gladly break down his team. Devontae Adams in the 11th overall spot. Great pick. Love that one. CEH there in the 2nd round, followed by Travis Etienne and David Montgomery. I think CEH is going to have a really strong year next year. I like CEH coming into a sophomore season with the Chiefs. And Travis Etienne, obviously, we got to see where he stacks up and what team he arrives on, but it could be a good pick. It's a little bit of an early pickup, though, for me. David Montgomery, though, is a little bit of a late pick. I think this was a great value for a running back who finished as a number 6 in standard, number 4 in PPR. David Montgomery's end of the season was phenomenal, and it looks like people are still dismissing that or expecting something different. I think David Montgomery's ADP is going to be climbing up quite a bit. So I think that Cat's Pajamas did a great job picking him up there. DJ Moore and Juju Smith-Schuster in the 5th and 6th. I like those pickups. I think Juju Smith-Schuster should do better, but it's such a strange one. It's hard to pin down, especially with Claypool and Deontay Johnson and all of the TikTok videos and stuff. It's just hard to get a clear read on what we'd expect from Juju. Chase Edmonds there in the 7th, as you put it, Johnny, could be a really, really nice steal. This could be the lead dog on a really productive Cardinals offense. James Conner could be a total mirage. Chase Edmonds could break out, as the truthers have been hoping to see happen for some time now. We'll see. Aaron Rodgers in the 8th. Love that. The former MVP coming into what should be another really good year. He's also got Devontae Adams. Makes for a really fun double dip. Tyler Boyd as his 4th wide receiver. Like that. Kenneth Gainwell as his 5th running back. That's exciting there. Rookie upside. Mecole Hardman in the 11th. This is nice. He should be the number 2 wide receiver this year. And then Noah Fant as his tight end. And we saw him do really well when he was at full health. And I think it's kind of that ankle issue he closed the season out with last year is dimming some of the shine that Noah Fant would otherwise bring in. But, hey, everyone else's dismissal is your advantage there. I think that's a great pick as a late-round tight end flyer. And then Zach Wilson, rookie quarterback, highly touted coming in. Hey, maybe he does good, but maybe you just have an easy guy to drop and pick up someone on the waiver wire. So I think this is actually a pretty great team by Cat's Pajamas. The only issues I have are kind of personal preferences there, like Travis Etienne. I wouldn't have risked it that high, but I think you balance it out and mitigate that risk well. There's no holes. Wide receivers, Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Tyler Boyd are backups. Cool. Running backs, CEH, David Montgomery, Travis Etienne, Chase Edmonds, Kenneth Gainwell are backups. That's great. Quarterback is Aaron Rodgers. I love that. Tight end is Noah Fant. It's nice. And you got all those flexors to put in a position. This is a good team. No holes with upside. I feel like I want to say B+ because it's not like super sexy, but this is an A- team for me. There's no holes. There's upside. He's got maybe the best wide receiver in the game. He's got production all over the place.
Yep. I agree with that. Great. All right. I'll close this out with Mr. Meeseeks draft grade here, or draft breakdown. He took Aaron Jones in the 1st, Antonio Gibson in the 2nd with the turn. I like those first 2 picks. I think those are very, very solid. Dak Prescott in the 3rd. I think that's a little early, but he made it work. Calvin Ridley, T. Higgins, and CeeDee Lamb are his 3 wide receivers. I think that those are very solid wide receivers to have this year, 2nd-year breakouts, and T. Higgins and CeeDee Lamb and Claypool. Realistically, he took all 2nd years with his second, third, and fourth wide receivers. I do like that. Damian Harris in the 7th, and then he has A.J. Dillon and Chuba Hubbard in the 9th and 10th. Dallas Goedert in the 11th, Tony Pollard in the 12th, and then Hayden Hurst close out the draft in the 13th. I really like this team. I think it's very, very solid. The upside is definitely, you as a wait and see. If this is a top 4 team at the end of the year, I wouldn't be surprised. I think it definitely has the players to get you there. However, the downside and the floor is also there as far as I think you would still honestly make the playoffs. But I wouldn't rank this one of the best teams. I would probably give this a very solid B+.
I think I agree with everything you said there, Johnny. I might go a little bit lower than a B+ only from the T. Higgins, CeeDee Lamb, Chase Claypool pause, as they might not be their number 1 wide receivers. And I'm crediting saying Calvin Ridley is going to be that number 1, which I think he will be. But let's not forget that Julio Jones, who Larry Fitzgerald says is the most talented wide receiver he's ever seen play, is still over there doing his thing. So he could have an entire squad of wide receivers. That's the number 2 on their team, and that, to me, gives it a pause. If this was a dynasty team, though, however, this is a strong A for me. But it's not. In dynasty, it's phenomenal there with A.J. Dillon, Chase Claypool, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, even Dak Prescott. You expect to be up and coming and more good stuff on the way as he's going to be coming back from this injury. Good team in redraft, great team if it was a dynasty.
Well, it was a really good draft. It was a great draft with great people. Appreciate you all for joining us.
Thanks, Whisper
Austin.
Nation.
You have any last words?
You start to actually get excited for the real NFL season. We've been in this fun limbo land, but we're going to get some drafts, some players on teams, some new stuff coming up, and oh my goodness, it's only excitement ahead, Johnny.
It is. We're just getting started here in the NFL season and then fantasy football season. It only goes up from here. I do want to say before we go, appreciate you all for joining. Make sure you guys tune in on Wednesday. We will be going live on Wednesday for a live show. So make sure you tune into that. That'll be 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. All right. For Austin Sear, I'm Johnny Game Time Hicks, and we're out of here. Peace.
Right here.
Hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you like what you saw, go ahead and click subscribe. And if you want to watch more fantasy football content, check out one of these videos.